new features that are available in the environment. In greater detail, we will briefly introduce the existing service, EGI Notebooks and EGI Replay, and take a closer look at new or upcoming features, mainly for token handling, for real-time collaboration. We will announce the availability of GPU resources in the notebooks, and we will look at what's around the corner, very, very close in the forthcoming future, which is streamlined support for reproducibility with Binder, and also the Apricot Lab extension for managing your virtualized infrastructures. So EGI Notebooks is a hosted service where you get a Jupyter Notebooks environment as a service from EGI. You just log into a single server, and your own environment opens for you, and you can start using the notebooks. It is integrated with EGI authentication infrastructure. So you log in with check-in, and you can use the same account that you use for accessing other offerings in EGI infrastructure. You get persistent storage for your home directory, and you get integration with additional EGI services, especially with storage services. We will have a look at that in a few slides. A notebook is something I don't probably really need to introduce, but for the real newcomers who have not been yet exposed to this technology, a notebook is a type of interactive publication where you can combine text, imagery, and live code. So you have different cells. Some of them contain only text or images, formatted text, and so on. But some of them can contain actual workloads like minor snippets of code, calls to outer infrastructure, stuff like that. And some of them can contain adaptive results displays, like various charts that you can adjust, or other live views of the results of your computation or of the data that come with the notebook. This is a really popular type of scientific results in recent years, and newer components and various extensions for the environment are streaming in basically all the time. So we are trying to keep step. When you try to use our notebooks that we run for EGI, you are presented with a choice of environments and a choice of sizes. So first of all the basic kernels for notebooks, which you can understand as programming language supports, are available, or the standard ones like for Python, R, Julia, or Octave. We also have specialized images, for instance, for MATLAB, where you need to bring in your own license, but once you paste your license in, you can use a preset and pre-configured MATLAB environment in notebooks. And we can also support specialized environments or images for various communities. If you are a group of users who want to use a resource like EGI Notebooks, but you have special requirements for what's supposed to be available in the environment, you can have a custom one made available only to members of your group. This is something that needs to be negotiated with us, so drop us an email if this is your case and if you want to do that. As you can see, when my colleague Enol was taking the screenshots for this presentation, there even are some gate-kept environments already available, because he's a member of additional communities that have their customized images already available in the environment. As I said a few slides back, the main strength of integrations is focusing on integration with storage services. So first of all, you get your own persistent home directory in the notebooks where your data and your open notebooks or the work you are progressing with is always kept. And then you have integration with other storage solutions that are relevant to EGI. So first of all, there is EGI DataHub, which runs on the One Data technology, and it can be used to store additional data or even incoming or input data for your processing in the notebooks. There is integration with EUDAT's B2 drop service, which is a sync and share type of service by EUDAT. CVMFS is mounted from the worker node, so it's available in the environment for larger software packages that you do not need to explicitly install in the environment, but you can use it as is from CVMFS. And there is also clickable support for pulling code or even bundled code and data with Git with specific extensions for the environment. There is also a service that we call EGI Replay, but it is basically a deployment of Binder or JupyterHub, which takes all the reproducibility one step further, because with Binder, the notebooks, which in themselves are easily reproducible, but with Binder, what you are reproducing is not only the piece of interactive document, the notebook itself, but also the environment it is running in. So it preserves all the libraries, library versions, and other dependencies that were available to the notebook at the time you were writing it. You document that with a Binder file, and then when you open the repository containing all this information in a Binder, it rebuilds exactly the same environment for you, exactly the one that the original author of the notebook was using when they were putting their notebook together. So it is fully reproducible, and what you get is exactly what the author meant, including the availability and precise versions of dependencies they were using. Currently, the JupyterHub or EGI Replay is a separate service. Later on, I will show you how we are planning to bring the standard notebooks hub or JupyterHub together with JupyterHub into a single instance and make the environment easier to understand and make it easier for you to choose at the beginning of your session what exactly it is you want to do. This is a nice picture explaining what Binder does, but I already basically said that if there is an original author of a notebook who has put effort into documenting what the notebook is doing, putting code in, showing off results, and now they want to make their work as reproducible as possible. They also describe not only the work they have done, but also the environment where it was running. They publish it in a well-known repository, publicly available like GitHub, for instance. And then anybody who has access to the Binder technology just gets a URL of the repository, and from that the Binder service will build exactly the same environment as the original author was using, and runs the notebook for you. We will see that again in some of the demonstrations that I have included in the latter part of the webinar. So, new features that we are introducing these days or that have been recently introduced into EGI notebooks. First of all, it's the real-time collaboration feature. If you are, some of you may be our long-term users, and you may know that this feature was already there about a year ago. We had to discontinue it for some time for security reasons, but these were addressed, and we are reintroducing the feature for real-time collaboration, which really means what you imagine when you hear it. So you can invite another person, another user to work with you collaboratively in the same environment that you are using on your notebooks. I have a very quick video showing that off. So we have the owner of the environment on the left side. They generate an invite link and hand it over to an invited user who just follows the link in their browser, accepts the invitation, and now the shared environment opens to them as well. So the invited user now has a clean slate. They can start writing whatever they want, code or text, and it appears automatically to the owner of the environment and vice versa. So it's really like collaborative editing, for instance, in Google Docs, where both parties see what the other is doing. Whenever the owner wants, they can just terminate the invitation, and they are alone again in their environment. We will get back to this in a minute again with another more in-depth demo, because we will also be discussing the security implications. Once you invite someone into your server, into your environment, they are free to some extent to move around. It's mostly like if you invite someone in your office, they also can poke into drawers. So it's the same. It's the same with inviting someone into your notebooks session. We address this, and not only this, with an extension to JupyterLab, to the environment that we are using in EGI Notebooks. The extension is called Token Acquirer, and it is an extension that allows you to manage your security token that you get from the authentication and authorization service in EGI when you want to authenticate to a service or to a string of services when you want to shell out of the notebooks or burst into the cloud or whatever. So you need your token because it is a representation of your identity and also of your permissions. But if you really want to make use of it in your preferred way, you need to have it in a file or in a variable somewhere in your code, which could expose it to an invited user if you invite someone to collaborate in real time with you in your environment. So this extension follows two targets. First, to make it easier for you to handle the token, it allows you by a single click to put it in your keyboard or to save it to your disk or even keep it refreshed on the disk. Also show you the details that you have in your token, like what entitlements you have in there, what's the validity, and so on. But on the other hand, it also safeguards and prevents you from doing stuff with the token that could be potentially dangerous if you have a collaborator in the environment. This will be documented in another short segment I have. So we have once again an owner who is generating an invite link to invite a collaborator into their environment. The collaborator pastes the link into their browser, accepts the invitation, and once again, we have the invited user in the original owner's notebooks session. They are prevented from inviting anybody else. So inviting someone else doesn't work for them. But neither can they handle tokens, because this is the session of the original owner, and the invited person is not allowed to handle tokens in any way. So they cannot save them to disk, move them anywhere. But they can open a notebook and start working on some shared code. This is a very simple piece of code, and now we are back with the original owner who sees that someone has logged into their session. Due to the privacy settings that we have in EGI, the owner of the session does not see. Let's see if I can roll back a little. No, I don't know how to return, but you saw that what the owner of the session saw was not any easily readable name for the invited person. It was a pseudo identifier. This is a privacy feature in the EGI environment all around. Even we as administrators do not see your actual names when you are using the infrastructure. We see these pseudo identifiers, so we cannot provide you with the name of the actual user account or user who you have invited. You need to be careful with whom you share your invite links, because these identifiers will not tell you, at least not at first sight, who that person is. So the user saw they have a collaborator in the session, they can see what they are working on, open the same notebook, and make their own changes. So now these two people are collaborating on writing the same code. Right now, each of them has written a single hello world cell. It's easy, but it demonstrates the principle well. And the invited person also sees that and sees the original owner as an online collaborator in that environment. They can even follow their cursor and see where they are currently in the shared notebook. Okay, now we can stop the sharing. Right now we have only kicked the person out, but we have not revoked the link, the sharing link. So it still exists. And if the invited person reuses it, it will work. So for that reason, you are still, as the owner, not allowed to put the tokens into your environment. What you need to do if you want to use tokens openly in your environment, you also need to revoke the invite link, and now it works. So you are able to to view the information of your token, the details, and you can also save it to disk or move it in clipboard and through there paste it to authentication edits, wherever. And now, on the other hand, you are prevented from creating a share link, because an active share link, if used, could provide the invited user with access to your token. So these two things are mutually linked. Yeah, if I remove the token from the disk where it has been stored, I will be able to generate the link, but then again, I won't be able to get the token on the disk. So these two extensions mutually guard each other. They try to tell you at every step what is going on if they are refusing to do what you ask. But just be aware that this is a strict requested security feature that we now have in place. And as a result of that, we are able to offer the real-time collaboration feature again. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, another small feature, I don't have a live demonstration of that, I just have a screenshot, is the warning for your resource usage. If you look at the status bar of your window when you are using the notebooks, you see memory consumption shown as one of the indicators. It shows how much memory you have available and how much of it you are currently using. And there is even a pop-up warning that tells you that you have crossed a threshold in memory usage. Because, as you know from your experience in a regular operating system, running out of memory is something that is notoriously difficult to guard against. If an application tries to allocate too much memory, either the system is able to prevent it, or you half kill it because of swapping and stuff like that. So guarding against unexpected results when the system is running out of memory is always difficult. So we try to put this information more center in your field of view and warn you if this tends to happen. So if you near the memory limit in your current session, you get a double warning. There is a pop-up and there is a red indicator in the status bar, so that you are aware a potentially complicated situation is about to arise. Another piece of good news is the availability of GPU nodes. We now have NVIDIA L40S GPU adapters available in the cluster that supports the notebooks. So there is an additional option when you are choosing the size of your server. There is not only the default EGI environment with 6 gigabytes of RAM and 4 CPUs, but there is also that with pre-installed eLyra and AI tools, and it comes with a GPU. So once you are a user of EGI notebooks, you can also try your hand at using GPU-enabled notebooks and have that at your disposal and for your work. Very briefly on features that are upcoming, I have two specifically to announce. First of them is what I already mentioned around the beginning, a streamlining of the service where the functionality of a regular JupyterHub and the functionality of a binder hub, where you can have the environments built according to an author's recipe, will be put into a single server. The library or the product that allows it is a fancy profiles component from the Jupyter community, which we have configured so that it really puts the functionality of JupyterHub and Binder Hub together. I will once again have a brief demonstration of that to talk through. So when you, in short, when you log into EGI Notebooks, you will have a switch if you want to go with pre-built mode, which is the standard JupyterHub, which offers the existing curated images that we provide, or if you want to use binder mode, where unlike regular binder, you are able to choose the size of the environment, so at least the amount of CPUs and RAM, but otherwise it acts like a binder hub. So upon selecting the size of the environment, you can go on and paste a link to a repository. We are still playing around with sizes. Now we are at choosing the repository. There are many types of repositories supported. GitHub probably is the most popular. And then when you have prepared or described what you want to do, you can build the image and launch it. The repository typically is, for instance, a Git repository from GitHub, where you just copy the link that you would typically use to clone the repository. You paste it into the form. There are optional things you can set, but you can also just as well build the image. In this case, it's a simple Octave demonstration, and the build was pretty fast. What you also get is a share link. This is another of the features that BinderHub has. You can use this link generated here in Binder. It looks almost the same. This is the original Binder, and the link exists there too. And this is a link that you can share with anybody, and it takes you exactly to the environment you have already described here in this form and prepared. One addition that is here in the new fancy profiles, but it was not in Binder, is this environment description. And it reflects the choice of the size of environment that you selected to run Binder. So it is the environment size choice is now part of the link. If you copy it and you put it into your browser, it takes you straight to execution of the Binder. So it is now all the environment described in the Binder repository is now already opening. If you check out the event log, you see that the image was already built in the previous step, so it didn't need to build the image again, and it is opening the environment that was described in the repository for you. This is a small example of using Octave. We can click through it here, but this is not very important for what we are discussing here. It's just a notebook in a preset environment that shows off some minor features of Octave. And then you can manage the running server the same way as a JupyterHub server. You cannot have multiple servers in our environment. Technically, it is possible with the software that we are using, but specifically in EGI notebooks, we do not support that. We think that parallel processing means something else than having multiple notebooks sessions open. So we don't provide that in our environment. You only get one session at a time. Okay, and the final piece of the puzzle I want to introduce as upcoming, it is not yet available in production service, is the Apricot Lab, which is a fancy name for an extension that wraps around the functionality of the EGI Infrastructure Manager. Infrastructure Manager, as you know, is a tool that builds custom environment based on a description that is provided in the Tosca language. If you are not familiar with Tosca, it's maybe because for you it is predefined by someone else, and you just deploy the environments that someone else has described with Tosca for you. Anyway, the Infrastructure Manager has been a service of EGI for quite some time, but it is also gradually more and more supported in notebooks. Not only is there a Python client that you can use from notebooks, but now there is also this clickable client that you can use interactively in your notebooks session to manage environments or deployments with Infrastructure Manager. It comes again as a very short video. Unfortunately, in this case, we didn't grab the mouse cursor, so it is not as obvious what's being clicked. But anyway, a very brief example workflow starts with getting credentials. You see that we have the access token on disk, and we are using it to authenticate to Infrastructure Manager. We use it to get machine credentials for a target cloud. In our case, it is cloud at Cessnet. And we are alternately using the Infrastructure Manager client library in Python and the extension. The extension is, as you see in the top bar on the screen, there are clickable links, deployment list, deployment menu that's added by the Apricot Lab extension, and that takes you to the features that we are demonstrating here. So we are now using the library to check what deployments are available. Now we are using Apricot Lab itself to deploy a simple infrastructure. We can describe it in a language or use some pre-built one and have it deployed. The same thing can be done also with the Python library. It's this step here. This basically does the same thing. It runs the infrastructure manager client and deploys an infrastructure. So we now have two: one deployed with the clickable extension and one with the library function. And yeah, we get details of what's running there with the library, and we can clean up after ourselves. So again, if I'm very frank, we have identified some problems in deploying Apricot Lab. So we are now collaborating with the original authors on fixing the issues. And when that's done, Apricot Lab will also become a feature in EGI notebooks. That was all for the stuff I wanted to mention as new or upcoming features in the EGI notebooks. And finally, some links to leave you with. So first of all, you need an EGI account, and you need to enroll in one of the virtual organizations that have access to the notebooks allowed. If you are just a lone user or a single person who wants to try it out or use it for their own work, then you will typically go through the virtual organization notebooks.egi.eu. That's exactly for these cases people who want to evaluate the service, do some private or I mean single person research in there. But you can also come as a group and ask for your whole virtual organization that already exists to be supported. That's also possible. One word of explanation, because it is relatively easy to get an EGI account. We also had to introduce this sort of gatekeeping, not letting everybody in, because when this was not in place, even the EGI notebooks environment was sufficiently attractive for malicious users who were trying to use it to mine cryptocurrency and do similar unsupported tasks. This is why if you want to use their service, you need to apply for membership if in one of the supported virtual organizations and explain what your plans are and be allowed in. That's it. The final links are to actually access the service. And with that, and again with a repetition of the access links, we are done with the pre-prepared portion of the program. What remains is your questions, if you have any.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zdenek. We already have a question in the Q&A box. Fernando, and actually I can enable you to talk. And he asked whether it is available. There is a shared feature is available for people from outside Europe. And for example, from Brazil. And
It is basically it follows the acceptable use policy by the EGI. So if you have a legitimate intent, which is typically research, there is no problem. And especially countries like Brazil, They have been collaborating with us in EGI on many other projects, so there is no problem with that.
Excellent. Fernando, I hope you get your answer, or is it okay? Okay.
Just don't be surprised that you are asked in the enrollment form what your purpose is, what you want or what you plan to do with the notebooks. If you give an answer that is cryptic or too generic, we may come back to you for explanation. But this is really just to prevent malintended users from getting access to the infrastructure.
Perfect. Anyone else? Any other question? It's a very good opportunity to directly ask our designer and developer. And anyone? And we have another question, it seems. Yeah, Carl Frederick. And he asked a good review overview. Do you plan to include a Rusho integration? That's for the data management, and yeah.
We could certainly have a look at it. We have already some working experience with supporting it in other environments that we operate. What we need is to decide which endpoints to support and if they are relevant to EGI and if they can support EGI AAI, if they can support you if you come there with your EGI identity. That is the most important thing. But
Right.
if there's a feature request for that, we can for sure have a look at it, and it would be in our interest to support it. It just needs to be an instance of the service that wants us and wants to be accessed by us.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, I was thinking about implementing this in the iSCAT environment at some point. As you know, this comes out of the RI Scale project, where that is the default data transfer and data catalog mechanism. But I think the Jupyter integration is still a bit experimental, so it's probably not for default inclusion, but rather for specific projects.
We have evaluated it. It works. It really just boils down to having it integrated in terms of identity and the server side accepting the identity that you have available in the notebooks. In this case, it's a token from EGI check-in.
Okay, thanks. So I will get back to you about that at some point.
Yeah. Of course, what you can do is just agree that you will do some additional secret handling, like you will have an additional token that you will paste somewhere, and it will get you to Rusio service. It is also doable. It is kind of awkward. We would much rather prefer to have it seamless. But for sure, get back to us.
Okay, Carl Frederick, I hope you are happy with the answer.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
Now we have a question from Giuseppe. You can talk, Giuseppe. And yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Zdeněka, for this nice presentation. My question is, I don't know if probably with the different priorities, if you are also considering the future to further extend the feature of the services in order to give the user the possibility to upload or select the data that can be automatically injected in the notebooks. So I don't know if this is something that you have in the radar, or it's completely not in the list.
Yeah. It is not, but there are, I would say, from my point of view, so many different approaches to this that you need to look at each one separately. For instance, once again, in another of our deployments, we work with data repositories that are grouped around EOSC, but even there, it's service by service. You need to support almost every one of them in a slightly different way.
Yeah,
so this is gradual support. You implement one thing, then you move to the next. If we have a use case and we have active user community or user group that wants to use some specific source of data, we are always happy to help, even up to the point of helping them implement the solution, because we also learn by it and we also can then claim support for it. So it works in favor of both parties. But basically we need the use case. So if you have one, reach out and we will have a look at how to support your use case. You are certainly welcome to do that.
Okay. Yeah, because of course I don't want to steal all the discussion now, but I'm aware about the EPOS ERIC community. They are using some APIs, Swirl API, basically to customize, automatically deploy their PRE based on the data selected by the user. But I can share this information.
I am okay. I am using this phrase, I think, already for the third time this afternoon. But again, in another deployment we support, we are actually working with EPOS and ERIC at replicating data from their repository. Not sure if it's the same one that you have in mind, but it is in fact a live activity that will make its way into EGI notebooks when the development is finalized.
Okay.
So you might be lucky there and get it for free. I mean, in the sense that you will just wait and it will appear there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. That's a very nice one, and exactly take this opportunity. You can ask your requirement, and anyone, if you raise hand, I can just allow you to talk. I don't see any hands, so in that case, I can probably. Okay, no resend. Okay, then finally, I would just finally like to thanks to our senior gratitude, express our senior gratitude to our speaker Zdenek. And this EGI Notebook service is one of our most popular offer in EGI portfolio. And Zdenek and his team as a CSNet, the driver of the driving force behind it, is make outstanding contribution to the EGI scientific community. So we great give a thanks to his excellent talk and discussion today. And Josepha, you raise your hand again. So let me find it. Okay, please.
No, sorry, it was probably a mistake. I don't have anything to add. Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you for your question. That's a very nice one. And also, okay, we thank you to our. Also, we have a Anno here, and then he's our really owner of the EGI Notebook service and involved from the beginning to design the service package, successfully transfer the community requirement to our final service. We give a big thanks to Anno, also thanks to our audience today. Thanks for your question and participation. Thanks to Grant, who worked behind the scene to make everything work smoothly. So with this, and I wish you a very good afternoon and welcome you to, okay, finally, we have another question. I'm Pasico, and I can, yeah, very nice that this topic. I can enable you to talk. You're Okay, I guess you can talk. If you can unmute yourself, you can ask. You're working at a science as a federal public research infra.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hope you hear me. During the webinar, thank you for updating us on the latest development of your, I will call it federated infrastructure. I was just speaking during the webinar to my line manager, and we will be interested to get to test again the EGI services. I mean, 4 years ago, we were involved, we got access to EGI services through a European funded project, but we would like to use it again. And I don't know what are the possibilities, meaning I will be interested to involve 20, 30 scientists at Cienzano and to give them the possibility to upgrade the way they are working with what you were displaying today. So I was wondering, so of course my manager came back to me, say how much it will cost. So I propose that you get in contact with me directly. So you must probably find my email address and if yes, you can inform me about what we can do so that I can have run a pilot kind of data science platform pilot at Cienzano. That will be great.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you very
And
much.
definitely.
Oh,
Or Anno can say something.
okay.
Anno,
Well,
do you want to?
No
quickly?
specific comments from my side. I think, I mean, it can be done. It's just a matter of just understanding your needs, and we can definitely talk about it. So we will get in touch with you.
Oh yeah.
I can pass on the email. I got the registration.
Grazie mille.
Yeah.
Quindi. Okay.
Perfect.
I mute myself now. Have a nice day.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you. Okay. And so thank you for everyone and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Zdenek. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.